Okay, we're back to round 7, and happening in round 7 here. Mhm. Okay, let's get back to live chess. Okay, so Carlsen is playing black now, and he's playing against Feodosif, who we saw actually win a nice game in the previous round. From my understanding, I think they're on the same points. So in this position, Carlsen's structure is a little bit compromised. He's got this isolated pawn on an open file. This bishop is clearly putting pressure on this. But these positions, you have to take into account everything, I think. So the obvious imbalances are pretty much they're not that much. Okay, so what does black have in exchange for his damage structure? I think he's got a little bit more active pieces, and you can't put really this rook in this file because of this bishop. On an immediate basis, I think he probably needs to play a6, and you see a lot of these positions in my system where actually Nimzovich was advocating for these positions, saying that you can hold them. They're like more defensive setups, but playable. Carlsen is opting for much more active play, like in c4. So if you were to take on a7, it would be a mistake to exchange a wing pawn for a central pawn. So white has to do something about this. There's various ways. But if you haven't seen the position before, I think the safest way would be just to exchange root text with tempo. So because if he stays, if he plays static moves, what's going to happen is white will consolidate. So black has to keep white on his toes by just playing much more active moves. It's actually a requirement in this position. So for instance, it's not surprising, let's say if the queen goes to g4, h5 could be played in this position. That's because you need to keep choosing these kind of moves. Because if you allow the position to sort of settle down, it could end up being bad for you. And here the question is this pawn on e4. This is the point of trade here. So let's say h5. The question is, where does the queen go? Not sure if it can go to f3. Yeah, this I didn't expect. But again, at least it's an active move. This is the kind of move that has to play. It makes sense with the rook on e5. He eliminates one weakness in his position. Now, actually, if you look at the factors in this position, they've changed now. It is white who has this funny pawn over here. Though this structure is a little bit defensive on its own. But it reminds me of triangle structures where, you know, you could have 3 pawns here. And the way to attack them usually is like something like b4, c5. In this case, this is an incomplete triangle. So a move like c5 directly could be what you need. Even if you know, these pawns are very weak, so eventually you recover a pawn anyway. I wouldn't take it for granted. c5 is actually a strong move. So the question is, what will he play? So I think here Feodosiev is gonna go into a bit of a think, because again he's in the position that Carlsen was, where you need to find very active moves. It's quite interesting how the world champion just sort of flipped the script on him. What always amazes you when you watch Carlsen's games is how simple he finds solutions to problems over the board. Yeah, Feodosiev goes for this c5 idea. So the idea is that if, let's say, you decide to take on c5, then a move like e5 suddenly is strong because you can take. If you take, then he's got queen to h5, threatening check here, at the same time attacking the bishop, and you can't afford to defend the check, so you have to try this. But after queen h7, king here, it's quite clear that that black is in danger. There's bishop e4, there's queen h8, so many things. So this is not what you want ideally. So c5 is a very nasty idea. Cuts off the rook, also on this side of the position. The best way to play, again, you're in a scenario where if you keep the position like this, it's gonna be really bad for black. So he has to find active moves to keep white on his toes. One move which comes to mind is putting your bishop maybe on a6. In the game we played bishop c6. just simply offers this exchange. Fyodosov gets rid of his c4 weakness. Very smart. So in this resulting position, Carlsen is going to have a backward pawn here. But in this position, there's not much else happening. So this weakness alone shouldn't be that bad. You can always find creative ways of defending it. One way is to put pressure on the e4 pawn. Another way is somehow to use the bishop to defend it. But this is not a big deal. So they exchange a pair of rooks. But black's pieces are much more active than white. Not by a lot, but at least something going on. So h3 is just to make sure there's no back rank funny business. Now h5 comes with the tempo, with the same idea. Just the queen away, create loft for the king. In some endings it would be handy. But as long as the light squared bishop is alive, nothing like that is going to happen. The queen goes to e2. Okay, so Carlsen sort of slowly starts putting pressure on this pawn. Maybe if he can force f3. His greatest achievement would be to eliminate this weakness somehow with d5. But the question is, how does white protect here without weakening his position? So obviously over the board, when you start looking at this, you could start by okay, he goes rook d1. Instead of defending this, he prefers to, Fyodosov thinks this is the world champion, let me just exchange everything and neutralize. Unfortunately with Carlsen, this method doesn't really work well. There's going to be something very small that is gonna nag him on. So yeah. But Carlsen also respects Fyodosov a lot. I mean, read him speak about him. But yeah, I don't see anything better than taking on e4. There's no point in black trying to hold on to this pawn. It's a very weak pawn. I think he will take on e4. So play could go bishop takes, and then bishop takes, queen takes, and the rook takes d6 with a symmetrical structure. And it will be up to Carlsen if he wants to play on here, or if he'll settle for a draw. And rook a1 check will be met by rook d1. Same color bishops, and so on. So we are still here. Don't see. Yeah, I don't see anything really violent that can happen here. See that their times are not moving. I wonder why. I wonder if they just agreed to a draw here. Oh no, he played rook a2. Carlsen didn't want to simplify, so he chooses a slightly worse position so that he can play on. Any player would have gone for the exchange, and I think I'm quite certain he's aware that this is a bit worse for him. Because yeah, suddenly the problem for Fyodosov is that the moves you have to find to keep this balanced are not easy. So, for instance, this pawn is under attack. Again, f3 doesn't work because of what we spoke about earlier. And here, moves like bishop b5 and let's say queen to d2 or f2 and queen c8, putting pressure on the spin. And now white is fully on the defensive, and it's not an easy position to defend again after queen c3, and you don't have time to put attention on his pieces. It's not really what you want to do in this position if you're playing not really what you want to do if you're playing white here. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so in the game we played rook d1, Carson played rook a8. Okay, and the white queen could possibly take this pawn on e4. Oh, so he took on h5, Carson took on e4, and after bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, and the ball is in white's court. He has to take d6. Because he's quite confident he can hold this after rook takes d6. He's gonna play something like g6, bring the queen back, and bishop goes to g5. So you probably aim at creating a weakness here. On e3, these kind of major piece endings with 3-2 are holdable. So he takes on d6. The earlier simplification was better than this one. Oh, but also I think one of the things is that Carson is playing on Fyodosov's time. Fyodosov has got a minute and 59 seconds. Carson has got 5. So a little bit of a risk to try and convert. Makes sense? Yeah, it's easy. A person can make a mistake easily here. Okay. He's looking for a way to squeeze here. Taking his time. Because black does have his own back rank issues with the queen on h5. He goes for this rook a1 check, queen to, yeah. We go for queen a4, yeah. To just result in some exchanges. Queen e5, exchange the screens. So yeah, let us set offer for a draw. Black can always sacrifice his bishop for one of the pawns if these are the two. So I'm sure they will agree to a draw very soon. G4, bishop goes back, G4. What does he do? So you don't want to, ideally, you don't want to create the exchanges like this, which would give black a pass, but this is the right way. So here, G5, G5. Okay, it goes here. And there's various ways. You could go bishop check here. Yeah, and then the king can come to G7 or to F7. And then this king cannot approach the pawn. When this works, the king has to go back. It's actually kind of stuck. I wonder how do you get out of this? It's not a problem. He could go bishop here, bishop there. But every time he tries to bring the king, the bishop here, black attacks the backward pawn. Interesting to see how he goes about it. Again, there is the way we know more about these positions are because they're table-based positions. So he goes like this. Bishop comes here. Carson is gonna easily probably handle hold on this one. It's interesting that him knowing sort of the limits of a position allows him to test his opponents in areas where they would not normally be tested. And yeah, he didn't have to come to this position, but he just used his knowledge of these positions to risk a little bit. Maybe it could have gone well with the time where it was. In this case, it didn't go, but okay, he didn't lose anything anyway. It would end up in a draw. So, which is a win-win. So he goes for it. It's the right thing to do. Just test your opponent as much as you can. Of course, White is the right to keep trying because he's got a little bit more pawns. Hmm. They agreed to a draw. Okay, they agreed to a draw. Let's see what's happening in Nepal. White is in trouble here. Okay. So your main challenge is how do you push your pawn? So somehow you need to transfer this rook. Put it here. Check. King can go to d3. This idea of combining ideas, so it squeezes a little bit on the king, at the same time gets the king out of check, check him again. It's gonna come here where he's ready to escort this pawn. Okay, he moves here. Now the king could potentially come here, but this check would be annoying. So yeah, just push your pass pawn. Should be very easy for white. Yeah, king d3. Yeah, f4. So he goes king a4. So his idea is to attack this pawn, but unfortunately this just doesn't work. The rook is gonna go behind the pass pawn, of course. So in a way, he wants to avoid this scenario where the rook is behind his own pass pawn, but he wants to be able to attack the b6 pawn. So yeah, his idea is to perhaps play rook d2, but okay, this doesn't make sense. So black can play just rook d1. This is the process of transferring the rook. Hey, Peter James, thank you so much for the like. Welcome. Here, this is idea. Okay, rook d2 check. The king can simply go to c1. This is a dead game. He's not going to get anything out of this. Now the rook is in the right position. The pawn can just go. Even if you go to check, he could even come here, coming closer to the pawn. King c1 makes sense. So he has to now somehow blockade this pawn with rook f2. Now we can pin this bishop. Just this would render white's position very mobile. And you keep doing that, something like rook b1, then eventually f3. Then you can't press anything. Rook b1 prevents something like c5, which would really help. Which would ideally help white. But yeah, if rook b1 is played, then there's nothing. There's no counterplay of any sort. Okay, so he unpins quickly. He still wants to play this move, c5, but can go f3. I think here, a little bit. Could have won in a different. You could have actually. You can actually take. You can actually take the bishop. King takes, and then go king d1, king e1, push the pawn. It should be fine. Should be win. He goes f3 and allows this c5. c5 is a blunder. Yeah, c5 is a blunder. I would have taken on b4 actually. Could it have worked? Rook takes b4. With the idea that after king b4, take on c5. Take on c5. And king d1. King here. And after king e3, just rook e6 check. Yeah, this could have been winning. That would have been the simplest way to combat. But in the game, he took on c5. I wonder what his idea is. Bishop takes c5. Oh, checkmate. He just gave up a pawn. Okay, this is probably an easier way. Ooh. Okay, so he resigned. Very nice game. Okay, so there's the Yu Yang Yi game versus Kema Vincent. Let's see what's happening there. These 3-2 rook endings are usually even, provided you can have your rook as active as you can be. So just have to keep your rook active. Yeah. Most of the advances that black can make will result in exchanges. And the exchanges are good for white. And after here, you went rook a5. Maybe it was just important to keep this king as active as you can, so that sometimes you can access this square when normally you cannot. Anyway, they're here. And I think it's still within the now this pawn could potentially be pushed here. So yeah, this is a good idea. Interesting that here, if rook e6 and then just rook b8, and you keep all your options. In the game, they played rook a6. Of course, these guys have got like a minute each, so anything can happen. This is one of the last games actually. There's another one, Shimanov Alexander. It's very interesting. Then rook e8 check. These are very difficult to study because one small difference could change everything. Yeah, but this just doesn't work because now, even if you like now your king is safe, but you can't advance your pawns because the king is in the way. Just have to keep your rook active, rook a8, so that when something worthwhile happens, then you can do something about it. Okay, yeah. Now advancing these pawns exposes the king, and this is the problem. So now the checks. will be rainy. All right, I wonder what this does. I mean, okay, this game is probably going to end in a draw. I think I'll cut off the stream now and then come back for round 8. Nothing much exciting. Ooh, but here, king here. This probably was a mistake. You need to somehow come and meet the king here. If the king is intending to do a walk. But the way this is dangerous, because now he could come and shoot the king and he could make some progress because the pawns are very close. Not so sure about this. All right, I'll see you for round 8 later.